Welcome to the TAPAS and Stuff Productions podcast. I am Sage Man. Yes, that's my actual name. Today we're looking at the climactic scene of my Dungeons & Dragons musical, ending the third season of my fantasy adaptation of my favorite childhood book series. And we're going to start watching the films of Disney's Bronze Age. Nice milestone podcast there in all the segments. We began the podcast on Drizzt and the Companions of the Dance Hall, Act 2, Scene 10. Irenicus, playing his role as our Pashapook substitute, has opened the Taros Hoop, hoping to use the energy of the Hell Dimension to become the most powerful thing in the realms. In this case, he's using Regis's ruby as a focus for the ritual to put such a thing to use. Drizzt appears, prepared to risk it all to foil the wizard's plans, and soon his companions join him as well, as do Intrari and Jarlaxle, who are there simply to watch the final showdown. So the companions battle Irenicus and his golems. Soon, Wulfgar manages to get in close to Irenicus and break his hands and his kneecaps. Irenicus flings Wulfgar, Catti-brie, and Bruenor through the portal and into some hell dimension. Drizzt and Regis follow them through to rescue them, leading Irenicus to attempt to abort the plan and destroy the portal. So now the heroes have to escape the hell dimension through the portal, prevent Irenicus from destroying the portal, and stop any demons from spilling out into Calimport. One by one, helping each other, they make their way back to the material world, all but Wulfgar, who is lost forever, captured by a Yochlol and dragged away into the abyss. Irenicus is forced to flee, and soon Intrari and Jarlaxle depart as well, and the companions process the loss of Wulfgar. Catti-brie sings the only song in this very lengthy scene, Son of Bjornagar. It's sung to the tune of Regis's earlier solo, My Ruby Friend. Son of Bjornagar, go among the blessed. Have a safe journey to your final rest. My time with you shall always be the best. Son of Bjornagar. Not gonna sing you the whole thing. It's very tragicomical, and letting out the emotion of it helps Catti-brie deal with the loss. The companions return to Mithril Hall, return home without Wulfgar. And that's it. There's 2 more short scenes to wrap up the story, so we'll see you there. Today in Droon, we're reading Special Edition number 2, Wizard or Witch. Published in January 2004, this book, like several of the previous ones, was illustrated by David Morrell, the cover by Tim Jessel. Nice to see Morrell getting more face time, and his illustrations actually getting markedly better. This special edition's tagline is, A Hidden Secret, a magical wizard book. Kia is about to discover amazing new powers. This special edition is special in more than just the 12 chapters. It's told in first person from the perspective of Kia. And look at this, it's not just a cover illustration, but an inside cover illustration too, like, I don't know, Animorphs or something. Here's that inside cover illustration. And let's begin the book. Chapter 1, This Magic Moment. We open with a framing device, Kia explaining to us that she is writing this story in her wizard book, one word, and she gives us a recap for those of us who've not yet read Droon book, which manages to flow fairly naturally. And the story begins with some disturbance going on in the castle at Jaffa City. As it turns out, Spar has somehow gotten into the city. In his car, which we haven't seen since the first book. I had begun to think it had been forgotten. And imprisoned King Zello and Queen Relna. He claims that Kia herself opened the gates, invited him in, turned all the palace guards into toads, and gave him the Red Eye of Dawn. Kia is sure this is impossible, and yet the evidence is all around her. Max enters the room, and Kia blasts him with witch power, sending him out to sea. Spar is pleased that Kia's dark magic has come into its own, and pulls a we can rule together on her. Chapter 2, 9th Orbit, 2nd Moon. As Spar ponders changing Jaffa City's name to Sparville, yes really, Kia tries to get a hold on her out-of-control witch powers and finally manages to get a hold of a wizard spell that freezes time in Jaffa City, halting even Spar. The spell will last 12 hours and Kia goes to set things right. We find out how Kia summons her friends from the upper world via a magical glass orb, and she sends for them. She spots her wizard book and we get a flashback to the previous night when her mother gave it to her. Relna explained then that a day was coming when Kia's magic would expand like a growth spurt, and that Kia is on her way to becoming a Drumar wizard. The word Drumar is not capitalized, but is always italicized for some reason. The Drumar are a race of elves who guarded the secrets of magic even before Galen came to Droon, and Relna's family are gifted with the elfin sight that allows them access to the Drumar's magic, though Demether chose the path of the witch instead. Kia comes back to the present as the Upperworld trio arrive. Chapter 3, Chit Chat with a Hat. Kia expresses her fears to her friends that she's turning into a witch. She is visited by a Drumar elf by the name of Augustus Rodolphus Septimus Thumb, who shows her a vision of Bangledorn Forest being attacked by an entire tribe of Hawkoth Maul. They set off to deal with the problem, hijacking Spar's car to do so. Chapter 4, Flight of the Wingy Wolves. They enter Bangledorn Forest, leaving the car outside the border and shutting down all their magical powers. They encounter Queen Ortha and Wooten Twee, and fight the Hawkoth Maul off. Kia finds herself able to understand their language and learns they're retreating to a place called Rivertangle, which Ortha knows is in the deserts of Lumpland. The three monkeys join the party as they get back in the car and head to Rivertangle. Kia's wizard book gives her a vision of a nin ship by the name of Stinkin' Poop sailing to Jaffa City, with Max on board. Chapter 5, On the Bad Ship Stinkin' Poop. They watch as Max sabotages the nin's efforts to sail to Jaffa City. It turns out he doesn't know how to sail, so he crashes the ship. Meanwhile, the party reaches Rivertangle, where Khan, in a small sailing vessel, is being attacked by the three Haggans. Chapter 6, Follow the Leader. The battle with the Haggans reveals that Spar's car has the ability to become a flying car or an amphibious vehicle, pretty neat, and they rescue Khan and hide from the Haggans. But Kia gets a feeling that the whispers she's been hearing all in her head have been guiding the dark forces to her. She commands the Haggans to leave her alone, and to her horror, they obey. Thumb appears again and tells Kia that the Ubja know what she needs to know, so, now joined by Khan, they drive to Panjabar. Chapter 7, What the Ubja Know. They land in the Ubja village and try to figure out what information Batamogi has that could be useful. The wizard book shows another vision of Max, who is in the Dust Hills, and Batamogi recognizes Bumpalump, the landmark where he's taking shelter. They travel there via Duststorm and go into the rocky cave in pursuit of Max. Kia reflects on how many friends she has with her, says an incantation or possibly just words that make the pursuing nins bow down to her, and joins them in the cave. Chapter 8, A Face from the Shadows. The inside of Bumpalump proves to be no mere cave, but an exact replica of the interior of Jaffa City's palace. Everything reversed and more evil-looking, but otherwise a very precise recreation. Trapdoors open beneath the feet of every one of Kia's friends, leaving her all alone. There, Kia comes face to face with Princess Nefu, a girl who looks exactly like her, who explains that she was created the day Demether passed witch powers along to Kia, and has been making a life for herself underground ever since. As Kia grows stronger, so too does Nefu, and Nefu is now ready to take Kia's place in Droon. Kia refuses to succumb to the witch powers and navigates her way through the mirror dimension Jaffa Palace to find Nefu's bedroom, where she calls Demether's name. Chapter 9, Royal Family. Demether answers Kia's call. She says that she gave Kia the dark magic in order to fight against Spar, not knowing that Nefu was created that day. She is confident that Kia is destined to become a Drumar wizard, not a witch. She warns Kia that if light and dark magic clash, she, Demether, will have no choice but to fight on Spar's side. And she says that unless Nefu merges with Kia, the evil doppelganger is nothing but magical energy. Demether disappears as Nefu catches up to Kia and shows her a vision of what could be if they merged and ruled Droon. Kia rejects her and prepares for a battle. Knowing that Nefu is nothing but magic, Kia defeats her using illusions. Nefu turns out to be a load-bearing boss, and the palace begins to collapse as Kia reunites with her friends, including Max, and they all must flee. Chapter 10, The Nose Knows. They flee the palace and find that the stone of Bumpalump has transformed into a giant stone replica of Kia's head. The Haggans swoop in to attack again, and they regroup in the Ubja village to fight them off. Kia teleports them back to Jaffa City and faces Spar as she waits for the halting spell to end. Chapter 11, Just Magic. Spar immediately realizes he's been frozen in time and asks Kia if she's reached a decision. Kia summons forth Demether and has all her friends attack at once. Together, Kia, Eric, and Queen Relna use the Red Eye of Dawn to free Demether from Spar's control. Kia defeats Spar by simply kicking him off the balcony. Overwhelmed, he flees in his car, finally in possession of all three of his three powers. Chapter 12, The Soul's Language. To celebrate Kia's victory and her ascendance into a true Drumar wizard, there's a big party with lots of tea and food. When the party ends, the Upper World trio ascend the Rainbow Stairs, and Kia begins committing the Saga of Droon to her wizard book. So, special edition or not, this continues the trend of this being the forgettable slumping middle of the series. I especially don't like the depiction of Spar in this book. After giving him depth in previous books, setting him up for even more depth later, this book depicts him as a scenery-chewing cartoon villain. Even in the first story arc, he was a little bit more than that. Sparville, I ask you. Anyway, we have two new guest stars appearing in this issue, one being the Drumar elf, Augustus Rodolphus Septimus Thumb. Drumar elves are depicted as tiny, furry creatures, Thumb in particular wearing a big floppy hat. For his voice actor, I thought David Tennant would fit. Aptly enough, that might still work if this is a Rooster Teeth show, seeing as David Tennant is actually in a Rooster Teeth show right now. And then there's Nefu, as Kia's doppelganger, just dressed in red instead of blue or green. She would be played by the same actress as Kia. In my dream adaptation, Wizard or Witch serves as the Season 3 finale, so let's recap all the Season 3 guest stars. I can't recall whether I've already mentioned Olivia Wilde as Zara or not, but okay, Olivia Wilde as Zara, followed by Kathy Cavadini as Flink, Kath Soucie as Woot, Rob Paulson as Twee, Jeff Garlin as Mr. Frando, April Winchell as Mrs. Khan, Jason Segel as Thog, Ivana Lynch as Mrs. Kroger, Wayne Brady as Piku, Sheena Easton as Kia's harp, Isabella Akers as Motley, Phil Lamar as Otley and the Iceman, Emo Phillips as Jotley and the Donut Man, Jason Marsden as Krog and the Prince of Stars, the same young Macaulay Culkin type who plays Neil as Duke Snorfo, the same actress who plays Julie as Duchess Dimpella, tentatively imagination-aiding Millie Ramsey, Lupita Nyong'o as Anusa, David Tennant as Augustus Rodolphus Septimus Thumb, and the same actress who plays Kia, tentatively imagined as my sister Zia, as Princess Nefu. This week for Keys and Kingdoms, I watched The Aristocats. Not a lot of lore to be gotten from such a film, but that makes this week nice and easy. I just had to watch it and come up with a few talking points. So, trivia. Last film that Walt Disney personally greenlit, but he didn't leave to see its production really begin, I don't think. So it says Walt Disney Productions presents instead of Walt Disney Presents, because the man himself is dead now. Title song performed by Maurice Chevalier, who apparently was convinced to come out of retirement to perform it. I remember reading that someplace at some point. Don't know when I was ever looking up Aristocats trivia, but I retained that. Phil Harris returns to Disney, playing Thomas O'Malley. Sterling Holloway is Roquefort the Mouse, and Eva Gabor plays Duchess. Not sure why they tried to pass off a clearly Hungarian actress as French, but good performance overall. Wolfgang Reitherman directed this, just like the last two animated features. When did these films start having only one director instead of a whole bunch? Happened without my notice. And, our title card tells us the film is set in Paris in 1910. Okay, I really need to stop giving notes on absolutely everything. It'll probably help if I go back to handwriting my notes instead of typing them. Excuse me a moment. Okay, so we're all familiar with the basic setup of this film, I should think. Madame Adelaide something or other is an eccentric rich lady who dotes upon her cats, Duchess and her 3 kittens, and makes a will, leaving her estate to the cats until their deaths, at which point it goes to her butler, Edgar. Since Edgar can't do math and thinks this'll leave him taking care of the cats for the rest of his life, he tries to get the cats out of the picture. And there we have our plot. The 3 little kids who play the 3 kittens are quite adorable, but not very good actors or singers. Edgar sticks so many sleeping tablets into the cat's food that you'd think he was trying to murder them, and in real life they'd have died as soon as they ate it, and this would have been a really short movie. But no, the entire bottle of pills only puts them to sleep, and Edgar goes to dispose of them out in the countryside. There's 2 dogs who have a comedic shtick throughout the film. They're funny, and they chase Edgar, and the cats end up under a bridge, where the following day they meet O'Malley, a stray cat who hits on Duchess and offers to help them get back to Paris. They run into much peril along the way. Perhaps there's some keys and kingdoms in this film after all, some geography and travel. Write that down, geography and travel. In fact, yeah. In fact, yes, I should be writing that down. Aristocats, geography, and travel. Okay, though they make it to Paris with the help of some geese. As Edgar goes off to clear his crime scene, he runs into the dogs again, and that's my favorite scene in the film. There's just some great jokes with one of the dogs able to identify Edgar's shoes in great detail just from listening to them, the other insisting the sound ain't nothing but a little old cricket bug. Once in Paris, O'Malley, Duchess, and the kittens spend the night at the pad of Scat Cat and his gang of ethnic caricatures, some more offensive than others, for a musical sequence. When they arrive back at the manor, Edgar tries to get rid of them again, putting them in a shipping crate to Timbuktu. But with the help of O'Malley and Scat Cat's band, there's a big action fight sequence that ends in Edgar himself getting shipped. O'Malley joins the family, and Madame opens up a shelter for stray cats. So, a charming film, very little value to my quest, but it's part of the canon, so I had to watch it, and yeah, good installment for this week. I liked it. So let's see, conclusion for this week. I'm feeling pretty good as of the writing of this script, you know? My anxiety and depression levels are down real low, so I'm feeling very good. That's surely not going to last, it never does, but I embrace those moments. I will see you next week.